All right, welcome to episode 4 of macro top checking with Drae. Let's get straight into it. All right, straight into it. So, a couple weeks ago, you know what? It was just 12 days ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I made a very detailed breakdown. Okay, it was actually it was 1 hour and 53 minutes. All right, 1 hour and 53 minutes, and it was basically explaining everything, like my full exit strategy that I'm gonna use over the next 1, 2, 3, 6 months. And that's another interesting point I mentioned right now. Like, we're going to prioritize everything based on charts, not time. I don't care if prices have 100x tomorrow and we still think the market has another 3 months left to go. Dude, if you're up 100x, just fucking take huge profits. You know what I mean? Like, money and profits and like charts is what matters, not really time, believe it or not, you know? And so, yeah, that's what we covered in that video. We also covered just the exact indicators we'll track every week, mindset and portfolio rules. I will full review of my current holdings. That was just extra though. I won't be doing that in this video probably, other than the 2 main ones, which is Ledger and Alia. But yes, that video was amazing. Definitely look at it. Back then, I did say that because ETH had pumped so quickly off the lows from here, because it happened so quickly, and because it before was consolidating at resistance, right? It was consolidating at resistance around here. When I noticed that and saw that, I was like, you know what? I actually think a retrace to support levels would be way too obvious right now. I actually think max pain would be continuation upwards, you know? And so that ended up being true, you know? That ended up being true. You know, we consolidated, had a little bit of a dip, but nowhere near the full pullbacks that many people were expecting and I was seeing on the timeline. And boom, we just blew straight past. As you'll see in this video that's coming up right now that I'm doing, you'll see that a lot of this move so far is still actually disbelief. You know, like belief is obviously starting to like really come into the market, but in terms of retail participation and this and that, they're not really in yet. And so, yeah, this ended up coming true. You know, we broke out. As I said here, I do think 10K won't come, but I do think like 8.4 is very, you know, it's possible. It would be very nice. It is possible. Lots of good confluence around there. Absolute best case scenario for me is 9.7. I'd be extremely surprised if we just blew past 9.7 and past 10 grand. I'd be extremely surprised. But hypothetically, if it does happen, I think 12.7 to like 13 grand is what would be next. But dude, honestly, like anything even close to 10K or over is 100% euphoria needs to be exited. But, you know, again, that's why we need to monitor for confluence, right? Because what if by the time we're here, everything on the timeline, like everything and all the data we're tracking looks euphoric? Well, then it doesn't matter how much further we think the market has. We need to learn to be reactive, you know? Like we need to like learn to have different probabilities in place and then react based on how things are actually looking instead of having wishful thinking. Because I don't know about you, but me personally, that's exactly what I've done. And you know what? I think that's what the majority still do even. They never really learn what exactly matters and they just have wishful thinking. And so we're not going to be fucking doing that. We're going to be tracking tangible, important data, right? And yeah, so I'll give you a little breakdown of what those things will be in case you've missed. But yeah, let me see. So, okay, as you can see, there's Ethereum, USDT dominance, USDC dominance, right? Stablecoins. If there's divergences between ETH and these stablecoins, if there's divergences between ETH and others in total 3 chart, the others in total 3 chart itself. And by the way, this isn't, I'm not talking about both separate charts. I'm talking about one chart that actually covers both. I'll show you right now. There's actually one chart that can track the others versus total 3 in one. And the point of this chart is basically comparing, okay, how good are small caps doing relative to big caps? And as you can see right now, we're actually shifting to a bullish market structure. Like we're kind of breaking out here. And if this continues up, what it means is that the others is actually outperforming the total 3. You know what I mean? And so, you know, for those of us that are holding smaller cap coins, that's exactly what you want to see. I do think, I mean, yeah, like, again, we always have to monitor for probabilities. Nothing's ever guaranteed. You will notice that the top of the market between March and December of last year, right? Even though the overall market was doing higher highs between here and here, this chart, which is others in total 3, was way lower, which basically means small caps the second time around did way shittier. And so the question is, this time around, will small caps again do another lower high? Or will it break out and go crazy and possibly reach around March levels from last year? Which, you know, if this is the true market cycle top, by the time everything goes crazy, it would make sense if we reach around these levels here, because that was the last kind of macro top. But the thing is, man, like, I do think the next time we hit like a proper big top, that's going to be like the top that leads to the next bear market. Because what we have had over the past year wasn't a bear market. It was just consolidation and shop in which a lot of people got fucked over and, you know, over-rotated and or got liquidated and this and that. But yeah, again, two probabilities. We either make like a high low, you know, or top around this resistance, or we go back to the areas of, you know, March last year, that's actually when my portfolio did a 20x, you know, interestingly enough. I remember my portfolio started running from like September, October onwards, which was around here, from here and here. And it was only really around here on this little short stretch, which was only about a month and a half, which is crazy, right? Or not even, just like a month. That is when my portfolio did a 20x. Like from here to here, nothing much, nothing crazy. Maybe like a couple X's by memory, or a few X's. It was only from here to here when it went absolutely parabolic. And so what that means is that this could run, hypothetically, say all the way here, but my portfolio only goes crazy like from here to here. And so always take things with a grain of salt, you know. You need confidence and stuff. But yeah, we'll see how things go. But yeah, so that's one chart we're monitoring. We're monitoring Google Trends, the Coinbase app downloads ranking, the Fear and Greed Index, BTC dominance, others BTC, these ones as well, like Coinbase, MSTR, Robinhood, the S&P 500, right? Obviously the S&P. So that's what we're going to be tracking. Here are some mental reminders, right? Because I'm not going to run through all of the actual like big like notes I have for the mental reminders. We already did that in the previous video, which you can watch here. But just for a little summary, it's this, okay? So like, only invest if you have an edge. Forget timing when key levels when key levels hit, just de-risk. Never be all in or all out. You know, always rotate the profits into stable coins and then into your real life world, not into more coins, okay? Again, we're in this to change our real fucking lives, okay? Not some like imaginary internet money portfolio, okay? When the market's hot, that's when it's extraction season, you know? That means all the profits you take in, just take it out. Don't rotate it back in. Always remember that like when you're going against the herd and when you're de-risking and selling into strength, it's going to feel wrong. Because human psychology is, you know what, if there's strength, follow the trend, like follow the strength. But it's actually the opposite of what you should do when things are going crazy and euphoric. You should be going against the herd and de-risking and exiting. While everyone else is FOMOing, you need to be exiting. So yeah, like that's why you need to leave the game before the music stops, not after, you know, like leave like the game of musical chairs while the music is playing, you know, before it stops. And yeah, always think for yourself. Don't trust the herd or the headlines, or at least use the information of the herd and headlines to your advantage, right? See what the herd is doing, see what the headlines are saying, and use that information to think for yourself, right? Come up with your own conclusions. Always remember that cash itself is a position, by the way. So never forget that just cash itself is a position, right? You don't always need to be all in or all out, as I said before. Let's see. Yeah. Most projects are eventually going to go to zero. So just marry money, okay? Marry money, not narratives. What else? Don't rotate endlessly. Take chips off the table. You're only as rich as your stable coins and assets, not your portfolio screenshot. Respect every dollar and secure your future first, all right? So this is the last one before we dive into like the live market update. But always remember that what the herd ignores, whales don't. In fact, the whales very, very carefully monitor the herd and monitor retail to see exactly what they're feeling. You know, they track everything: narrative, sentiment, engagement, behavior, and that's all qualitative data. Everyone's loves tracking the charts, you know, just numerative data, which is all well and good, but we need to learn to analyze the more qualitative stuff. Okay, behavior. What are people thinking? What are people doing? Because that's much harder to measure. But you just got to look out for the signs. And so what I'll be doing personally is I'll be looking at this Telegram channel called Threading on the Edge. Okay, I'll be looking at that. Very often, this Chad, he posts in that Telegram channel like the most recent news, like the macro news, crypto news. It's a very awesome list, which they do regularly. I'm going to be looking at a tracking sentiment list I have on X, which is basically I follow a bunch of accounts on X that are like mainstream news accounts, you know. So here it is, tracking sentiments. And so it's just a bunch of like mainstream accounts, you know. Yeah, bunch of mainstream accounts. Yeah. Altcoins are surging on Google Trends. Yeah, okay. Yep. Yeah, okay. But interestingly enough, and I know this because I researched, this is worldwide. But if people dig deeper, worldwide doesn't necessarily reflect the actual retail economy too accurately, because when I checked this yesterday, believe it or not, the data that was pushing big numbers and big scores for a lot of these key terms were random ass small countries from like Africa and just very small third world countries that were just kind of irrelevant and don't have much motion when it comes to money and stuff. And so my point is, always learn to think for yourself. You know, what did I do when I noticed that? I talked to ChatGPT, I did my own research. I realized that you got to track specifically here, United States, United Kingdom, maybe like one Asian country, and then you can track the worldwide and kind of come up with an average, kind of get a gauge and gauge for like where there's interest around the world, because you want confluence, right? If it's only a couple countries or a few countries and they're not even like big market moving countries, then you know it doesn't really matter as much. So you need confluence, right? Anyways, we're gonna be looking at Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We're gonna be looking at like the overall news and looking at it from like a whale point of view. What would a smart whale be doing? You know, always think about it that way. We're gonna look for like when coins have a lot of volume, right? That's gonna be de-risking opportunities when coins have lots of volume. Look for when like big players like CZ, right, ex-Binance CEO and founder, you know, when they're posting really, really bullish, huge stuff. When you're seeing coins like Peanut reaching ridiculous valuation. I mean, Peanut hit 2.4 billion last year. Like, that's just stupid, man. That's just crazy. But yeah, final notes is that you have to always be emotionally ready for a fake blow-off top. Like, you have to be emotionally ready to think it's a top, sell, and then prices go up like another 20% or another 2x. And you have to be okay with that. Like even me, I need to learn right now and tell myself right now that it's okay to be wrong and you're most likely to be wrong. It's very, very unrealistic to actually catch the exact top. Because even when there's actual tops, you can have a blow-off top. You can have a top, it goes down for a month, and has one more pump, and it pumps, say, 1% above the previous swing high, the previous all-time high. You know, a bunch of people FOMO in, think the next leg is up, is coming, and then when in reality, that's a top. You know, so my point is, always understand and always be ready and comfortable with the fact that, you know, you're very likely to sell and then prices keep pumping, okay? And that's fine, you know, that's fine. That's part of what happens. That's the price you pay for exiting early, and that's fine. Better that than selling way too late and round tripping everything, okay? Take it from me. I've made millions in the space. I've lost the majority. Take it from me, right? We're not going to do that mistake again. So, yeah, don't assume a blow-off top means all your bags will pump next. Don't just endlessly wishful thinking. Assume that if all the signs for a blow-off top are there, everything, on altcoins, everything, and your coins still haven't pumped, just take the L, you're going to have to sell, okay? Take the L, you're going to have to sell. So be ready, okay? Be ready. Be ready for when like stupid influencers on TikTok are fucking saying, oh, ETH to like 20, 30 grand, even 10K, like we'll see. So yeah. Oh yeah, bonus. So I'm also tracking all the different niches that exist in crypto. I'm tracking like memes, I'm tracking AI, I'm tracking gaming, I'm tracking real world assets category, deep in, everything. And that's strategically so that I understand what kind of niches are performing best and are performing the best. And so with all that said, and please excuse if there's any noise in the background, it's a bit windy and rainy here. With all that said, there was a few things I wanted to get into. So Beam, gaming coin, well, I think it's a fucking gaming coin, so my gaming, yeah. This coin looks very, very, very primed. It looks like it has a lot of upside coming, if I'm being honest with you. And, you know, I do think once these gaming coins start to pump, that's going to bring a lot of traction to gaming. Like, I don't know if you guys were seeing on the news recently, but like gaming's already getting a lot of traction on Google Trends. And again, that could just be from random ass countries, right? But based on the charts, I was actually looking at all the different niches, and gaming looks like one of the most primed. You know, it looks like one of the most underlooked, you know, just things right now on the market. And so definitely worth knowing. Obviously, one of the biggest coins I've been sharing that you guys all know about is Alia. I'm very, 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 very bullish on Alia. And so, yeah, keep an eye on that. It's definitely, you know, shifted to a bullish market structure. It's consolidating here. It reminds me a lot of Ledger before it blew up. It reminds me a lot of Ledger before it blew up. From like back here. From like back here, which is consolidating. It shifted to a bullish market structure. Boom. I do think I will pull something similar. Ledger had a very, very healthy retrace back to the mean, right? To the median. So that's a really good look, good sign. So yeah, I do think I will follow suit in terms of that, you know, crazy action off the lows, right, off here. Do think that's coming very soon, very, very, very soon. Very excited. So yeah, AXS looking good. Tower is looking very, very, very good. And this is also going to be great for our Ledger, right? You know, AI narrative, Terra is basically, you know, one of the biggest and best of that niche. And so I wrote this yesterday, and it looks like we're actually flipping it now. So this is a very, very, very big level to just flip and hold. Looks like we might be, you know, flipping it right now. We'll see. And yeah, I do think once we break out, it's going to be nuts. I do think once we break out of here, it's going to be nuts. And yeah, like by the time Tower is absolutely going parabolic, right? Absolutely mooning. I do think that'll, you know, throughout it and towards the end cause a massive AI season, and Ledger's definitely going to benefit from that, you know. And Ledger's been showing a lot of strength relative to the market, and so yeah, I do think this is going to be one of the best performing coins. And as I've been saying for a while on my Twitter, like I do think Ledger will be kind of an up only coin for at least a short to mid term, you know. Honestly, that's my opinion. So yeah, Tara looks really good. You know, we have this clean consolidation and, you know, coiling up, just getting ready for boom. Pendle's next. Pendle. Yeah, honestly, bro, if you zoom out, like Pendle does look very, very healthy, very, very bullish. You know, you have basically like a sideways range from here to like fucking here. You know, it's very, very, very healthy. And yeah, this is worth watching, you know, for the RWA sector. The cool thing about Ledger is that it's many, many, many narratives that are genuinely stacked on top of each other and are very relevant. You know, AI, real-world assets, deep in. And so, yeah, even coins like Pendle doing well, it's going to be really great for other RWA coins. And Ledger, you know, Ledger can be ranked amongst that. And yeah, I do think we're entering up only mode, honestly. That's the vibe I'm getting based on everything I'm seeing, everything I've been tracking. Tesla's also being tracked because Tesla represents a lot about like retail sentiment and how retail's feeling. We had this very, very long consolidation, and we had basically a test pump, right? New highs. We retraced back to support levels, okay? Perfectly, actually, right? Back to support levels. Now we've been consolidating here. I do think now is when the next leg starts. That's what I think. I think the next leg is going to start, okay? And so, yeah, I mean, this is crazy when you think about it. Like, when you can make liquid gains on a stock, I mean, even, you know, from here to here, I mean, dude, 170% liquid is like ridiculous, dude. You know, like this is Tesla, man. You know, this isn't some like very, very small cap coin. Like the fact that you can just make that much money on size is just ridiculous. And most people never will. You know, most people will never dump millions into coins like this and just run that up. So yeah, other than that, very, very, very excited to dive more into this video. Let's see what we got. All right, let's see what we got. So, mind you, I tracked a bunch of things, okay, a lot of data. Look at all this. I tracked a lot of data, and I gave it all to ChatGPT. This is what ChatGPT said based on all the data I gave it, okay? Everything. It said that we're still pre-euphoria, okay? Even though things are in breakout mode, it's still pre-euphoria. ETH broke out over 1 year, you know, from here it's been about 1 year and 5 months. We finally broke out of that range. And technically this range started all the way back in like May 2021. So technically this range is like 4 years long, just so you know, which is crazy. We have this deviation here, tiny bit of a deviation here. But I mean, a 4 years range is not something to take lightly at all. And that's probably the only number one confluence that tells me that Ethereum could do more than 8.4 grand. And maybe that's just a bit of greed in me talking now. And I'm self-aware enough to understand that and see that. But the only thing that tells me ETH could do more than just like a 2x from like the top of the range, which is say 4 grand, 8 grand would just be basically a 2x from here. The only thing that tells me ETH could do more than that is the fact that it's been ranging for basically 4 years, which is just nuts. Like for it to range 4 years, then just do a 2x would be kind of crazy, you know? I guess, I don't know, man, like 9.7, you know, 8.4 to me is like the best case scenario, 8.4. As I said before, like 9.7 is possible, but anything above that is just crazy, dude. Anything above that is just crazy euphoria, honestly, crazy. So here's the thing, man, like the longer and higher prices go up, the better for us, but that doesn't mean we don't take profits and don't take risk. We need to, we have to. I have to, fuck, I don't care what you guys do. Honestly, I'm trying to help you, but end of the day, it's up to you. You know, you just have to de-risk, man, or you're cooked. Simple as that. So yeah, let's see. So yeah, BTC is flirting with all-time high. We're really close to all-time high. Yeah, very, very close to all-time high. And while that's been happening, media and institutional validation cycles started. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the news, but Harvard has been publicly buying into Bitcoin. WorldFi as well, large treasury buys from countries and stuff. So apparently this is historically where smart money starts planning distribution, but they're going to ride the move higher. And that's basically the same vibe I was getting. It's like, I do think from a whale's point of view, it's like we are going to run it up higher, but we need to start getting ready to start de-risking and start exiting. That's my point of view. That's my perspective. It makes sense. You know, USDT dominance has been going down, and you know, clearly retail and, you know, the average market participant is, you know, enjoying this mini alt season we're seeing right now. But in terms of USDC dominance, which is usually reflected and used more by like whales and more institutions and bigger funds, if you notice, like, this is nowhere near the support levels like USDT dominance is. And so what that tells me is that whales are gradually taking profits and, you know, being way less like, I guess, emotional and volatile with these swings compared to retail. So which means they're being a lot more intentional with their exits, you know. And so that to me is a good sign, right? So yeah, USDT looks like it's in a falling knife, which is completely true. You know, it's, yeah, looks like a falling knife. USDC again looks stronger, which means whales are unloading slower, giving ETH more room to run first. That's good. That's what you want to see. Divergences between ETH uptrend and stablecoin dominance are in yellow flag. The reason I had that note is because I noticed that yesterday. Because here's the thing, like, it takes time for me to do these, right? Yesterday, there was actually a divergence where Ethereum was up, but stablecoin dominance was also up, which is a bearish divergence. But since I wrote that little note in my notes, like, we did a lower low. So I can actually kind of just delete that divergence part technically, because it's irrelevant now. Like, it's we're following convergence now, which is exactly what you want to see. You want to see USDT dominance, just stablecoin dominance in general. You want to see that dropping while assets are going up, because that's just the nature of how liquidity works. But yeah, ETH has been outperforming others in total 3. It has been for sure. And I could just tell that just by like comparing the charts, how they look, obviously, right? And that's normal. You know, it's completely normal and typical before the alt season. You know, ETH needs to go first, then alts lag, and then alts suddenly explode towards the end. It's exactly what happened in the March 2024 alt season. One really interesting thing is that they're really trying to open the floodgates up for retail and for normies. Like, just like they did in late 2021, they're opening up a lot of things which are just going to make it easier for like retail to participate in the markets. You know, they're doing a Coinbase DEX integration. We've been seeing some pretty crazy like meme coin NFT pumps and value and, you know, raises, like pump raising all that money and stuff. Like, they're bringing a lot of attention into the market. But that said, it's still interesting that Coinbase is only ranked 22 in finance and 275 in the world, which is nothing compared to what you usually see in blow off tops, which is like, for example, top 10 in finance and stuff like that. Yeah, other than that, Nasdaq and gold has been absolutely risk on mode, absolutely mooning. VIX has been low and dropping. S&P pushing for highs. Maybe we did a new all-time high. Yep, there's a new all-time high. That's crazy, man. Yep, new all-time high. Yeah, up only. It's like a fucking money glitch, isn't it? It's just crazy, man. Like, already up 3.86%, like, so quickly. Like, in a matter of like 2 weeks, it's just, yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, even from the lows, like, how much is it up from the lows? I'm curious. Let's see. 33% in like, so April, so January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So in 4 months, it's up 33%. Not bad. I mean, Ethereum's still outperforming, I think, but, well, it's definitely outperforming, actually. Yeah. There's been a lot of psyops, though. I've been seeing, you know what, I'll just show you here. So yeah, there has been pro-ETH psyops. Like, there's been a lot of mainstream tweets about never shorting Ethereum and people that are shorting Ethereum getting cooked. And as I said in my notes, like, obviously right now you don't want to be shorting Ethereum. Obviously not. But my point is they're going to socially condition people to never short Ethereum. Like, never, ever, ever. And they're going to prove that over the next few weeks and months by people that are shorting losing a fuck ton of money. But the thing is, they're doing this on purpose. That media coverage is on purpose. They're trying to condition you into never even thinking about shorting Ethereum. But then by the time it is time to short, if you don't, you're cooked, you know? And so, yeah. They're trying to trick people into holding long term. You know, Senator, what's her name, Loomis, Senator Kathy. I don't even know her fucking name. She's crazy. But yeah, she was saying how like Bitcoin is worth holding for like 10 years. Like she was literally telling people time. Like yeah, like you should hold Bitcoin for 10 years. Like it's like you're gonna make tremendous growth. It's like I don't know, man. Maybe they're making it a little bit too easy for retail, which is a bit of a red flag, you know. But yeah, overall, these are historically late stage marketing plays that encourage retail to hold into distribution. That said, social volume on like TikTok and Instagram is still low. So retail mania is still not fully here. Okay, still not fully here. So ChatGPT reckons over the next 1 to 3 months, this is what's coming. Alts are going to eventually flip the switch and lead. Retail mania is going to really come into effect. And so overall, the game plan is just to do what we've already been doing, you know, monitoring everything as a whole. And yeah. So those are that's basically the summary of all of my notes. Let me just scroll through here to see if there's anything really, really important worth mentioning. One thing I did mention in my notes is that the recent Ethereum price action reminds me of Bitcoin when it changed to bullish market back here in like October of 2024. Because I remember after seeing this candle and it was confirmed bullish market structure, I knew we were about to send like hard. And like, look at these huge candles, right, on the weekly chart. And so, yeah, I do think something similar like that is going to happen with Ethereum as well. Anything worth noting? Yeah, obviously, as you can see, like USDC is nowhere near support levels, whereas USDT is really close to it, which is really interesting. These divergences no longer apply, so don't worry about that. What else? Yeah, so I did Google Trends. I did it for United States, UK, worldwide. I did it for like all of these key terms, right? In general, worldwide scores were the highest, but they were also from like random countries, like in Africa and stuff. Like there weren't predominant places in Europe, like or US or UK, and so. Yeah, overall, yeah, we still have a lot of room to go based on these scores. The majority were like below 30, and things only really become a concern when they're like between 40 and 70 and like higher than that as well. Like so yeah, like I gave the data to ChatGPT of all the Google Trend scores, and what it reckons is this. It thinks that we're in the late expansion phase, which makes a lot of sense. Late expansion. If we just look at Ethereum. Yeah, so like this is what you call let's zoom out. Yeah, late expansion, and we're approaching acceleration, which makes sense, right? Because acceleration would be like accelerating like crazy into this, and then mainstream FOMO would be like when we're basically already at like key levels. Because that's the thing, when the top is in, it doesn't just like last a day. Usually there's like a little bit of distribution, like maybe a few days, maybe a week, 2 weeks, maybe it dumps, but then 3 weeks later it pumps one more time to around those levels. And so you always have a chance to like sell, even if it's at a lower high. So have a good chance to sell very close to the top. So definitely got to de-risk. Macro tops are not in yet because US and EU are still very under engaged. And yeah, as I said, Coinbase numbers are still very low. Fear and greed index, I found this part really interesting because the score right now is 60, but there's actually a bearish divergence because Ethereum has been going up, whereas sentiment has been going down. So usually, if this was like a blow-off macro top, that would be very, very, very bearish. The only reason right now I actually think it's bullish is because all the other indicators I've been seeing tells me that the markets are in disbelief right now. They don't really trust the trend yet. They don't really, the belief is starting, but like it's probably only going to be after all-time highs that like real belief and greed enters the markets. And yeah, so the same logic as the previous journal update I did applies, which is that retail excitement is waning, but given the other confluences, it's that I mean, this ended up coming true, as I said here like 2 weeks ago. Given that retail is in disbelief at the resistance area, I think we might blow through it, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, genius, if I do say so myself. Bitcoin dominance, classic, absolute classic. It's been dropping. Oh wow, look at that. Yeah, perfection. As I said in my notes, it's like a falling knife. So I anticipate, I do anticipate reactions at these local levels here, 56.71, 54.56. I do expect some sort of volatility and big reactions, but ultimately I do expect more, continuation downwards. I do expect more continuation downwards. But yeah, as I said here yesterday, like I did expect more continuation, and we got it. We dumped more. And yeah, other than that, many other charts have been holding perfectly. Like exactly what we want to see has been happening. Like others dominance, it held perfectly here, and then boom. Now we're like making a higher high there. Same thing with others BTC. It held a support level absolutely perfectly here. Now again, higher highs. So I do think the breakout's basically about to start happening right now. Like it's actually crazy to say out loud, but I think there's it's happening right now, which is just insane to think. Like, I mean, we've been consolidating since basically the start of the year, right? And now it's finally time for some upside. And yeah, basically, as I said earlier in the video, like the question is, will we form just a higher low, or will we really break out? And I think the answer to that question depends on the specific chart. Like maybe charts like these, others BTC will make lower highs, while other ones, like say others total 3, will outperform and go back to like previous highs like here, which I think would make sense. Yeah, not sure on that one. We'll see. We'll have to see. But yeah, ETH BTC, it's probably the most clean chart that I've been tracking. It's been respecting every single level I drew absolutely perfectly, every single level. And so that makes me think that these resistance levels are also going to be respected. It is interesting to note that we're already very close. I mean, we're 20% from here, well, 18%. We're 18% from here. We're 35% from here, 50% from there. Let me just see how high we are off these lows, for example, here. Yeah, crazy. Yeah. So I'm not too concerned that we're already really close to these levels. And the reason for that is because I understand that altcoins usually have the biggest growth in the later part of the cycle, of the stages, of the phases and stuff. And so, yeah, I understand that it's going to be when we're around here, which is when things go nuts. And so, yeah, other than that, let's see. Yeah, Coinbase, it's been holding up. Coinbase is fine. MSTR looks a little bit kind of weird and weak to me, but I do think this will hold. Yeah. Hood has been going crazy, Coinbase. Robinhood. It's been going crazy. I think it's just going to keep going up, honestly. And, it should react here to a degree. But I think it's just going to be one of those charts that attract a lot of media attention. And by the time it's like even more parabolic, I think... yeah, like as I said here, I'm going to be watching for what narratives are telling retail. I think they're really going to be trying to suck retail in as it pumps up more and more. Because, they have crypto products on Robinhood, to my understanding. Other than that, yeah, S&P, I do think we're approaching levels that are like very, very, very overvalued in my opinion. That said, we still have time, we still have time. The VIX, still very far from like these purple lines, which is like historical low levels. Let me look at the VIX. Yeah, we still have time. We still have time. I'm really going to be really like concerned once we're like touching these and staying here for a long amount of time. That's when we heavily need to like de-risk. Yeah, the DXY, I'm not too sure on that one. Not too sure on the DXY. It's interesting though because Link has been doing really, really well compared to other altcoins, which I found interesting. Link looks like one of the strongest coins. I did have here in my notes that there's likely to be some sort of a reaction here. We could blow through it. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't, based on how clean this looks. Okay. But we could have a reaction here. We could. Yeah, and as I said before, Tower looking good, Beam looking good. Alt-season index is only 35, which is actually kind of crazy, actually, because it's only really alt-season once it's 75 or above, officially. And so, yeah, like, oh yeah, let's see a little bit more. Yeah, these are just random notes here that I had. And yeah, as I said here, still small numbers on social media. It's basically it. Yeah, it's basically it. Yeah, well, okay. I'm curious how long this video was, but thank you very much if you're still listening. Congrats. I think you're very likely to make it alongside me. I've made millions before in the space. I've more than 20x my portfolio before in the space, and I know I will do it again. I'm very, very, very confident. And frankly, for me, I'm prioritizing, quality and selectivity over just buying and getting into anything I can. Like I'm going to be very, 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 very selective with things I'm investing, with projects I invest in, with projects I work with everything, anything I put my time into and money into. So yeah, Ledger looks very, very, very bullish to me. I expect very, very, very big numbers here. 14.6 million market cap FTV. And with Ollie, I'm also very, 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 very bullish. And also expecting big numbers here. 756k market cap, which is very, very, very cheap. So yeah, overall, very, very, very bullish on everything. Very grateful to still be here, still alive, still surviving this market. And I think things are going to get really interesting really soon. So yeah, don't fade Drae. And thank you very much for tuning into this episode of Macro Top Checking with Drae. Thank you.